Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Please subscribe to my channel and like this video for the latest news and updates from around the world. Today we're diving into a major geopolitical development that has captured global attention. Belarus' recent game-changing announcement that could open an entirely new front in the ongoing conflict dynamics across Eastern Europe. This is not just another political statement. It's a move that could reshape alliances, military strategies, and the balance of power in the region. So, let's break down what exactly Belarus has announced, why it matters, and what it could mean for the future of Europe and beyond. In recent days, Belarus has made headlines after its government, led by President Alexander Lukashenko, declared a significant shift in its military and foreign policy posture. The announcement centers around the idea of deeper integration with Russia's defense strategy, including potential joint operations and expanded deployment zones along its western borders. Analysts are calling this a new front, because for the first time in years, Belarus is openly positioning itself as a direct participant, not just a supporter, in the regional conflict tied to Ukraine and NATO's eastern expansion. This statement comes at a time when tensions are already at a peak. The war in Ukraine has dragged on for over 2 years, with neither side achieving a decisive victory. Western nations have continued to supply Ukraine with weapons, intelligence, and economic support, while Russia has been reinforcing its military lines and forming new partnerships with countries that share its strategic interests. Amid all this, Belarus has often been described as Moscow's closest ally, but until now, it has played a somewhat cautious role, allowing Russian troops to operate from its territory while avoiding full-scale involvement in combat operations. That cautious stance appears to be changing. According to Lukashenko's recent speech, Belarus is no longer content to stay on the sidelines. He announced new defense measures, expanded military drills with Russian forces, and even hinted at the possible deployment of tactical nuclear weapons that Russia has reportedly already stationed on Belarusian soil. This statement alone sent shockwaves through European capitals and the NATO alliance. The idea of Belarus becoming an active launch point for Russian military operations opens the possibility of a second northern front against Ukraine, stretching Kiev's defenses even thinner and forcing Western planners to reconsider their strategies. The timing of this announcement is particularly significant. It coincides with increasing talk within Russia about mobilization and strengthening alliances within the post-Soviet sphere. Belarus, geographically positioned between Russia and the European Union, holds enormous strategic importance. It borders NATO member states Poland, Lithuania, and Latvia, countries that have already increased their military readiness in response to perceived threats from the East. By aligning itself even more closely with Moscow, Belarus is effectively positioning itself as a frontline state in the standoff between Russia and NATO. But what motivated this sudden escalation? Many experts believe it's a mix of political survival and strategic calculation. Lukashenko, who has faced years of internal dissent and international isolation, relies heavily on Russian political and economic support. Since the disputed 2020 presidential election that led to mass protests and Western sanctions, he has grown increasingly dependent on the Kremlin. This announcement could be his way of reaffirming loyalty to President Putin, ensuring continued backing and protection from Moscow. At the same time, Lukashenko is sending a message to the West that attempts to isolate Belarus or support opposition movements will come with serious military and geopolitical consequences. From a military perspective, this move could dramatically change the operational dynamics in Eastern Europe. Ukraine's northern border with Belarus has long been a vulnerable area, especially near the capital, Kyiv. During the early phase of Russia's invasion in 2022, Russian troops invaded from Belarusian territory, attempting to capture Kyiv. Though that offensive ultimately failed, it forced Ukraine to divert significant resources to its northern defenses. If Belarus now actively joins the war or provides new logistical and operational support to Russian forces, Ukraine may once again have to split its attention between multiple fronts. That could make it harder to maintain defensive lines in the east and south where heavy fighting continues. NATO's response to this development has been cautious but firm. Officials from Poland and the Baltic states have already warned that any aggression from Belarus will be treated as an extension of Russian hostility. NATO forces in the region are reportedly reviewing contingency plans, and there's talk of deploying additional troops and air defense systems to strengthen deterrence. Meanwhile, Western leaders have condemned Belarus's decision, warning that deeper involvement in the war could invite even more sanctions and further isolation for Minsk. Beyond military implications, this announcement carries enormous symbolic weight. It signals that the fragile balance of neutrality in Eastern Europe is eroding even further. For years, Belarus served as a kind of buffer state, closely aligned with Russia but still maintaining limited communication with the West. That era may be over. By openly aligning itself with Moscow's war objectives, Belarus risks being drawn into a long and costly confrontation that could have devastating consequences for its people and economy. Domestically, the move could also be risky for Lukashenko. While state-controlled media in Belarus paints a picture of national unity, reports suggest that many Belarusians are uneasy about the idea of being dragged into a war that most view as Russia's conflict. If Belarusian troops are deployed to Ukraine, or if Belarus becomes a target of Western retaliation, public dissatisfaction could grow, potentially reigniting the same kind of protests that nearly toppled Lukashenko in 2020. Internationally, reactions have been swift. European Union leaders have condemned the announcement and discussed tightening sanctions, while the United States has called it a dangerous escalation. Russia, on the other hand, has praised Belarus for its strategic courage and promised to strengthen military cooperation. Chinese officials have so far remained neutral, emphasizing dialogue and regional stability, a sign that even Moscow's allies are wary of how far this could go. If this situation continues to escalate, we could be witnessing the opening of a new and potentially catastrophic chapter in the ongoing European conflict. Analysts fear that a northern front involving Belarus could stretch NATO's deterrence posture to its limits, increase the risk of accidental clashes, and bring the war dangerously close to the alliance's borders. The presence of nuclear weapons on Belarusian soil adds another layer of danger, raising the stakes of any military confrontation to unprecedented levels. So, what happens next? That largely depends on how both sides respond. If Belarus follows through with its commitments and begins hosting large-scale Russian operations, Ukraine may be forced to reassign troops, while NATO could ramp up its presence in Eastern Europe. Conversely, if Western diplomatic pressure or internal dissent within Belarus slows down these plans, there might still be room for de-escalation. Much will also depend on Russia's long-term strategy, whether it seeks to expand the war geographically or simply use Belarus as leverage in negotiations with the West. At this point, one thing is clear: Belarus's announcement has fundamentally altered the geopolitical landscape. It has transformed the country from a peripheral player into a central figure in one of the most dangerous crises of the 21st century. For ordinary people in Belarus, Ukraine, and across Europe, this means continued uncertainty and the looming threat of an expanded conflict. For world leaders, it means recalculating strategies, alliances, and the delicate balance of deterrence that has kept full-scale war at bay for decades. So, as we watch these developments unfold, it's more important than ever to stay informed and understand the broader implications behind the headlines. This isn't just about one country's decision. It's about how power, fear, and survival are reshaping an entire region. Belarus's new stance marks a turning point, and the world will be watching every move that follows. Thank you for watching, everyone. If you found this explanation helpful and want to stay updated on the latest global developments, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new update. Stay informed, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video.